Okay, so we are officially recording this meeting. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the LTPT meeting for the month of October. So happy Thursday. I'm very happy that everybody was able to make it. I know these past few weeks and kind of this whole month of October have been very crazy with hurricane weather. So I really hope that everyone has been safe. Where they've been at in Florida. So I really hope that everyone and their families have been safe during this time. So to kick it off, I just want to remind everybody that for this meeting, at the end of it, I will be asking everyone who essentially is not a part of the Florida Office of Broadband or an LTPT leader or member of an LTPT, I will ask you to leave the meeting. So if you're an ISP, work for a consulting group, work for a nonprofit, I will be asking you to leave the meeting just so then I can discuss any matters with LTPT members as well. So that now I will kick it off to Jacob, who has a office announcement and as well will provide some updates regarding digital capacity. So right to you, Jacob.
Thank you, Aaron. So like Aaron said, just a quick announcement. I will be stepping into Sean Lewis's old role as Chief of State Broadband Initiatives here at the Office of Broadband. I don't think that much will change for y'all. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But I think, Aaron is still the LTPT coordinator. I think everything should mostly be the same for you guys. Looking forward to the challenge, big shoes to fill, but I'm excited for it. So like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. As far as the capacity grant goes, again, we are still kind of in a holding pattern there. We've been hearing rumblings from NTIA that that we are going to, I think, see an announcement in pretty short order. So be on the lookout for that. Start thinking about your grant application. Start thinking about the digital adoption and use plan, looking at the metrics, which of these can I address in my area, etc. But still waiting for the moment, but we should have an announcement, I think, pretty shortly, potentially by the end of the month, but certainly before the end of the year. So like I said, just keep it front of mind. You'll hear from us right when we hear from the federal government, but at the moment we still are waiting. So nothing too much to update there. Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Um, I will now provide a quick update regarding the BEAD process. I talked to Joshua Holdley, who's kind of our GIS coordinator in the office, and he's really been handling the BEAD process very well, very diligently. And he wanted me to provide the update that the challenge process is currently wrapping up at the stage of the rebuttal process, which will end on October 30th. If there were any issues you would like to address, please contact the office sooner rather than later. So you can contact me or you can directly contact Joshua as well. I like to say that our office is pretty proficient about getting back to people as quickly as possible. So if y'all do have any questions regarding that, please reach out to us as soon as you can. Um, so once the rebuttal period is closed, we will then begin working to move through the determinations. This process is looking to extend beyond the initial scope timeline, so we will update the site accordingly once we receive the official word. And then as required by the NTIA, we will meet transparency requirements by posting a transparency map outlining summaries and a decision upon conclusion of our determination phase and before submittal to the NTIA. So we really appreciate your coordination and communication throughout this process. Again, that's kind of the only really updates we have regarding BEAD. But if you have any big major questions or concerns, please reach out to me or Joshua. So the next item up on the agenda is that I have created an LTPT Broadband Summit survey. I am going to, do we have any idea? I just saw your question, David. I think Josh, could you potentially answer that question for David? Yeah. Okay, so David, I think Josh is going to type that answer back to you in the chat. But back to the Broadband Summit survey, I'm going to send that out to all of the LTPTs that attended the summit. It's really quick. I think I only put 5 or 6 questions on there. They all are set to be required to answer, so please answer them. I think they're really simple yes or no questions. I didn't provide anything too crazy on there just because I know everyone is very busy. So if y'all could send back that survey as soon as possible, that'll be great. I'll send out the survey link in an email to all the LTPTs that attended. I really just want to get feedback on how y'all felt about the LTPT panel. Um, if you would like to see it again next year, what was your favorite topic that was talked about in the summit? If you had a good, bad, okay experience at the summit as well. So just kind of get y'all's feedback to see how we can improve for next year as well. Um, so if anyone doesn't have any major questions right now, you can speak out if you have any questions right now before I kind of ask those to leave before we hand it over to the LTPTs.
Aaron, this is David from Polk County. Um, can you remind me who sent that? Was it from you on the? I saw it and I went back to find it, and I don't know if I accidentally deleted it. But I want to make sure that I do fill out the survey and the questionnaire.
Oh yeah, of course. No, I'll send it out after the meeting. I just created that like this
Okay,
week.
so I thought there was one that had already gone out, so my apologies.
Oh, no, 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 you're okay. Yes, there was one that came out from the Moore agency. They worked along with us, and I think that was just a broader survey from the Broadband Summit, but this is just specifically from the LTPT's point of view.
Terrific, thank you. And thank you, Josh. I saw that.
Yes, so Sean put in the chat there's another one from JoJo. So that was from the Moore agency. So, but this one I'll just be directly sending out to the LTPTs and those that attended. What is the project timeline for digital capacity grants once announced? Jacob?
Sure. So once we get the announcement from NTIA, I think that we will sort of have a brief kind of internal powwow to make sure that we're all have our ducks in a row. We'll do a webinar like we do for all of our grants to get specific into allocation, eligible uses of funds, et cetera, walk through the application, things like that. And then, depending on when we get the announcement, depending on how that all works, then we'll post the application. We'll open it up. I would anticipate 60 days, but you never know. We'll see. Like I said, that'll be in the webinar, and then we'll get the applications graded. We're going to handle that internally. We're going to rank them and award them and all that. So I would guess tentatively that for the application opening that we're looking at beginning of next year, 2025-ish, after we get our award announcement. Like I said, it's sort of contingent on when the federal government gets it to us, but I would say look to apply beginning of next year. Like I said, 60 days-ish, and then I think award announcement probably spring-ish of 2025. And then we can, like I said, that's all tentative, so we'll do our best with that. But that's the, like I said, the sort of tentative timeline I think we're looking at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. And then there's another. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
so
Jacob, were you going to say something?
yeah, I just saw Beatrice's comment in the
Mhm.
chat. So we have not specifically done that as far as the standard for a digital skills platform. That's something that we are looking to fund once we get the award itself, but we have not like engaged a vendor or anything like that in terms of a digital skills platform. So that's something we're still sort of looking at and finalizing. We have some, partners and some people who have reached out to us, options that we're considering, but we have not finalized anything. Happy to hear any suggestions if you have any ideas about it.
The B pre-qualification application process.
So we are going to be doing a BEAD pre-qualification process for service providers. Basically, I think the way we're going to handle it is if you haven't applied for a past grant through the office, then we'll do a pre-qualification. But I think the overwhelming majority of our applicants for BEAD will be applicants who we've already awarded in the past. So I think if you've already gotten an award through the office and you're already working with us, then I think that the pre-qualification will be sort of speedy. And then if you haven't, then we'll do a separate sort of pre-qualification for new providers who haven't done work in the office through BEAD or through our past grant programs.
Goodness, what if you applied but was not awarded? Will those?
So I think we're still working through the specifics of the pre-qualification in terms of volume 2 and all that. So I think once we get that approved, we'll design a pre-qualification process specifically. I think if you applied but were not awarded, I think that we would do a pre-qualification for that. Let me talk with Paul about that and we can double check. But I think if you weren't awarded, then you hadn't gone through maybe some of the financial stuff in the contracting that that the awarded applicants did go through. So I would think that if you applied but weren't awarded, you would get the sort of more thorough pre-qualification. But like I said, I will double check on that with Paul and make sure on that and also on the timing.
Yeah, Jacob, this is Paul. You're doing it now, and yes, you're correct. If you applied but did not receive an award for any of your applications, then you'll have to go through the pre-qualification check.
Excellent, thank you. Derek, to your point, yeah, happy to speak to any LTPT, any team on an individual level. Happy to answer any questions. If you have any specific questions, is my project eligible? What type of funds are available? What can be covered? Any question at all, happy to talk to you about it. Happy to set up a call. Happy to answer any questions. I'll put my contact information in the chat and reach out. But yes, happy to discuss anything specific, general or otherwise about the grants when they become available.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob, for answering all those questions in the chat. So if anyone doesn't have any more questions right now, I will now ask those who are not an LTPT lead or not a part of a LTPT team to please leave the call so I can further discuss reports from the LTPTs. So thank you guys for joining, and we will see y'all in November. Peter, I just saw your message. So are you the LTPT lead of this county?
I am the co-lead. I represent on these meetings all the time, and when we have the meetings, obviously, one of the leaders of Orange of Osceola County, is the official host.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. If you are, even though you are a consultant, if you are part of the LTPT of this county, then you are more than welcome to stay. But if you are, part of a non-profit, still not a part of the LTPT,
No, I'm paid by Osceola specifically for the LTPT and the grant stuff. So,
oh yeah, no,
yeah,
you're fine.
yeah.
I think everyone on here is part of the LTPT. Mary Bell, I still see that you're on here. Could you step out of the meeting? Sorry, okay, so she's now part of the Miami-Dade County one. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. Okay. I think we are good to go if everyone on here is either the leader or a official member of the LTPT. You're more than welcome to stay. All that I've asked in is that if you're not a member, a consultant, or a nonprofit or something like that, to step out of the call, but I think we are good to go. So now we can discuss LTPT reports. So if y'all have any updates, any questions or concerns you would like to bring up in the call, you're more than welcome to now.
Aaron,
I'll just make
this
a
is,
general
sorry,
comment, Aaron, that
go ahead.
the pivoting from the BEAD and the infrastructure to the digital equity, that has been that's been not difficult, but it's a challenge for some people, right? Because it's some of this information is so new to them, but it's been eye-opening, and I've watched over the past 2 years how these LTPTs have gotten way more informed on beyond infrastructure. So it's really helpful, and congratulations to Jacob. It's a good testament from his past role that he's taking on the overall experience. So kudos on the digital adoption and use piece getting more attention.
Thanks, Peter. So to your point and to Derek's point, this is new. I know we had sort of the big infrastructure push initially, and now we're moving into this other side of things. And I know that it's a lot. Know it's new. Know that we have not addressed a lot of these things in the past, and it hasn't been at the forefront, and now it is. If you have any questions about what this type of stuff means, if you need like a primer, what types of things are we focusing on, please reach out. Please let us know. Any question, happy to answer. Happy to sort of give you a baseline of what we're working from and where we're moving forward, so that you can be on the same page. And with our digital capacity applications, as with our infrastructure applications, we want to make sure that we're getting the local perspective from the teams. So we do want the LTPTs to be engaged on this as they have been in the past. So if there's any confusion, any like need for assistance, please reach out. Please let us know. Happy to help. Happy to clarify anything we can.
Anna, we see that your hand is raised.
Hi, everyone. So sorry I didn't see you at the Broadband Summit. I had a really bad case of COVID. So sad I wasn't able to join all of you. I did want to ask, when we talk about the digital capacity grant, I think it would be great, Jacob. First of all, congrats, Jacob. Like, you're awesome, and this team is awesome. So many congrats to you. I think it would behoove this whole entire group for you to do a primer around it. We just applied for the large NTIA grant that was direct with the federal government, and they gave us, I think, less than 60 days. It was like short. Like, the announcement was at the end of July. That NOFO came in, and we had to like turn everything in by September 23rd. It was massive. And so the way that I would like to see, because we came up with a really cool concept that's comprehensive, since we're such a large community and there's a great amount of need. And so I'm really glad we're moving out of the focus only on infrastructure and really on adoption and digital literacy, and maybe redefining the way we're looking at digital navigators now, since ACP is gone. And so I think it would be really good, because I've had LTPTs reach out to our team, so that we can tell them what the things that we're doing that are making us successful. We just had an incredible event in our community. We brought 30 plus partners. We had county departments. We even had barbers come in and do free haircuts for the community, and prep community members for dress for success, so that they have the right kind of attire and the right look to try to get new jobs as we work towards upskilling them. And so all of these things, it would be great as a group, that if that if part of the focus is going to be shifting in that direction, that we all leverage each other's ideas and have like some sort of brainstorm session to be able to, I was going to talk about that in the summit, and I really didn't get a chance to do that, but I think it would be very cool to have some virtual brainstorms and sessions where, you know, people can leverage our ideas and the things that we've already accomplished here in Miami-Dade County, but for us to leverage what other people are doing in other parts of the community, you know, of the state. So I just wanted to say that since I wasn't able to be at the summit and I wasn't able to share our, you know, our true passion for really uplifting the community and bridging the digital divide. As you know, the advent of AI and new technologies and quantum computing is just going to really widen. We're walking up a hill here, and eventually it's going to become a mountain. So I just wanted to share that and open the, you know, the floor for other people to share. And definitely you're welcome to reach out to me or Erica Alvarez, who runs our LTPT, to, you know, to leverage whatever the county has done, Miami-Dade County has done to, you know, help promote or uplift your program and advance your programs. All right. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Anna. I really appreciate it. So, um, I think that those are all really great ideas. I sort of have, I think, a handful of ideas in terms of the way we could approach it. I think we could do like a separate call, or like maybe on next month's call, we could gather our thoughts and, like you said, have kind of a brainstorming session. Maybe present like sort of digital adoption and use, go over the plan, go over what we're going to be looking at sort of in advance of a potential webinar about the specifics of the application and the grant itself. I think that that type of thing might be good. In terms of the timing, like I said, I'm trying to make sure that I feel like it would be helpful to have that before our webinar. So like I said, I think that we could handle that if we go into next month's call, we do a presentation on our digital adoption stuff, and then we can have sort of an open discussion with the teams about ideas. Here's what's the issue in my area. Here's, you know, ways that we're approaching this. I think that might be a way that we can handle that. Like I said, I think we're going to have some internal deliberations in our office about the best way that we can address the points that you're making. But yeah, I want to make sure everyone's on the same page, and I think that those comments are super constructive and helpful. So appreciate that a lot. Like I said, let's reconnect, and we can make sure that we're moving forward in the best way possible. But I think that that's really good.
Thanks.
No, thank you, Anna, for that. Sorry, I was reading through the chat, but no, thank you for those comments. And we did miss you at the summit. But I really think that's a good idea, what Jacob just said, that potentially next month we could really provide a presentation of the digital adoption use plan. And then, you know, once the other participants from the meeting leave, then we can turn it over to the LTPTs to really discuss, you know, what kind of challenges that y'all face in your communities and counties. So I just written that down. So I think that'll be a really good topic of discussion for next month's meeting. At the end, we can kind of see if we want to do that at next month's meeting or if we want to do that in 2 weeks or so. I really want to leave it up to y'all. I don't want to, you know, force anybody's hand on having a meeting as soon as possible. So at the end of the meeting, we'll bring that up again and kind of see where we are if we want to have that sooner rather than later. Trying to read. We'll do. Okay, Peter, we just saw your comments in the chat as well. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Anna was you. I'm going to pay Anna a compliment because you all know me from another county that I'm not working with anymore. But my observation is Miami-Dade gets this as good as anyone in the nation, and that 2 years ago when we did this event with Raimundo, Anna, and Margaret Brisbane, the CIO, were speakers, and we sort of brainstormed. And these guys are so far ahead. So if you want to look for guidance anywhere, look at the exact things they're doing because they apply in many of the counties. And this February 4th thing, Raimundo hosts it every year. So this year is focused on the broadband and digital equity as a primary focus. So I know Maribel's already going to be one of the speakers. That's what I have to say on that. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I will now turn it over to David Palmer. He has his hand raised.
Thank you, Aaron. And Jake and team, everyone, great job as always. We really appreciate everything. And Peter and Anna, great insight. I'm going to see if I can make it to that February 4th event. So on the recap, if we can make sure that that gets out, I'd love to attend. So thank you for the invite. I do have a question, and I wanted to bring it up to the group. We discovered during the last couple of rounds of storms the real lack of resiliency in the critical infrastructure. And I'm going to back up. I'm even going to call it critical infrastructure in the basic infrastructure of the current infrastructure. We are finding that there is a significant amount of interconnectedness that has not been exposed, so that other carriers and or providers are on top of other carriers, and we keep hearing about we don't want to do overbuilding. We don't want to do those type of things. And yet we're finding that we have significant losses of ability to recover. And I literally received calls from our state legislators asking specifically, why are those things not being addressed by the LTPT? And so I wanted to bring that forward to the group to see if anybody else was getting those kind of questions or comments from their elected officials. I got it from everything from supervisor of elections and tax collectors all the way up to state reps. And so that was going to be the other piece is there ever going to be funding set aside for critical infrastructure for the local municipalities?
So we ask in our applications, we ask resiliency questions about it. Obviously, we know that living here, it's just part of being in Florida is that you're going to get hit by hurricanes. So we definitely have been asking applicants about that. We've heard some of our panhandle counties, we had some providers reach out and say that their wireless towers were still standing after the storms. So that's like a resiliency measure that we've heard that has had some success, that some of these newer wireless towers and technology has been successful at that. We definitely want to make sure that that these things are available in the aftermath of storms. I don't think that in terms of like specific funding for resiliency for critical infrastructures or CAIs or whatever, I don't think that that's something that's specifically permissible through BEAD. I think we're trying to make sure that the infrastructure that does get built is resilient, but I don't, it's sort of, we're bound by federal regulations in that respect. So I'm not entirely sure that we can handle resiliency specifically. There's obviously a lot of other federal programs that handle that. CDBG disaster recovery and stuff like that is available, and there's other, I think, potential avenues for funding for resiliency and through FEMA and stuff like that. So I'm not. It seems like it should sort of flow through our office, but I'm not sure exactly. There's a one-to-one match there in terms of resiliency and disaster recovery and our office's funding specifically.
Right. And then anything around critical infrastructure. We've talked about this before. I know Paul's probably, spinning in his chair at the moment going, Paul is a broken record. But literally, we still have at this moment 6 of our fire stations that are offline because there is no critical infrastructure to them. And those aren't being delivered through these methods as the providers are going through these areas. And it's a real challenge for me to be able to explain to a state senator or a representative why those aren't getting funded and updated. Same thing with our water and wastewater treatment facilities.
David?
Yes.
in the ARPA, I do this consulting, and using ARPA funds, I built a whole bunch of resilient networks for broadband, but it had to be a decision by the county to allocate the funds for that infrastructure improvement. So that was one, potential. But there is definitely HUD has done quite a bit. I know one county that I believe is still on the call. They're got quite a bit of funding that they're putting towards requirements and things around fiber optic communications for the resident homes. If that county's on and they're interested in talking about it, you may mention it.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate that we engaged with our ARPA funds, that study. We have got that in place. The challenge therein lies is getting the critical infrastructure built out for those locations. That's the real challenge. And I don't know if anybody else ran into that. I had heard Tallahassee and your area had seen some of those, but I know here in Central Florida, the coastal as well as the inland, we had a significant number along that line. And like I said, I still have locations that are still off, primarily because they are serviced only wirelessly, and that infrastructure is not in place to actually support them.
And David, my comment was, one of the counties, 9 million went into fiber optic infrastructure. They actually build it because the providers are not going to go there at the time frame that you need. So you're going to have to commission the actual build yourself. And maybe you'll get collaboration from someone who wants to kind of ride the open access concept. That would be my advice on the infrastructure, because you're not going to get the cable codes to get to your remote areas, with which you're going to need to these buildings or sites.
I get it. It's one of those things, though, that, as was stated in the original intent, that was supposed to be what this was kind of for, is to get that out there to those hard to reach locations. So,
Agreed. Yeah.
That, and once again, for us in the ARPA funding, we just, our commissioners specifically did that to assist with the specific needs of the residents and the individuals here at the county. So, because they were under the impression, as so many of us were, that this, $1.1 billion coming toward us would be used for infrastructure and that kind of build out. But what I'm hearing, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear, is that there's still no mechanism to actually address critical infrastructure through any of this current plan.
And the NOFO did reference the community anchor facilities as the third step. So it was supposed to go unserved, underserved, then community anchors. But I don't think that's a rule anymore, because those remote community anchors would have been eligible to get the fiber to them if with private or other mechanisms. I was a federal grant reviewer, and I know when this was written, that was the intent. But it seems that something shifted in the last year or two to make it those funds be non-deployment funds, is the term I'm hearing now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jacob, does that make sense, what I just said?
To your question, David, there is no funding available for critical infrastructure out of the BEAD program, and even community anchor institutions that are served have to be for the betterment of broadband as opposed to just infrastructure.
But they do go hand in hand, Paul. A chicken egg
really
kind of thing.
Nice try.
No, I completely get it. Like I said, I was getting those calls, and so I would be absolutely remiss if I had not brought it up on this call.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I understand that there's a lot of that need in the state, but that's not the intent of this funding. And again, some of the ARPA funds allowed for infrastructure deployment and upgrades and repairs as part of the overall Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, but they are in entirely different sections than the broadband section. So that's not under our purview. So I don't know who's getting those funds. I know Department of Transportation is. I think DEP is. So, I mean, there's a lot of other places that you could probably look. And again, the original ARPA funds, the state and local fiscal recovery funds, could have been used for that type of project as well. But that was purely a county decision, and that none of those funds came through our office.
Right.
Okay. Thank y'all for that conversation. So, does anyone have any other LTPT reports? Any more questions that y'all would like to bring up before we end the meeting?
Aaron, this is Derek. One of them before we end. About the contracts that should be headed out for capital infrastructure and BOP. Do you have an update on that, on those going out to the ISPs?
Um,
So do you have a specific contract that you're asking about, or just like contracts in general?
Well, specific for ours with Comcast that we had, but I don't see a place on the site because you all announce when there's awards, but there's no announcement where contracts are produced and embedded with the ISPs and it's done.
Yes, sir. So if you have, can you remind me what your area is?
Nassau County.
Nassau County. So let me look and see the Nassau County contracts we have through BOP and BIP, and I can double check the specifics for you and see if those have been executed, and where they're at in terms of milestones and stuff like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but I will look into that and I will get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Derek. I see that Matt has raised his hand.
Yeah, Aaron, it's nothing big, and I'll make sure that I definitely take the survey you send out. But I wanted to thank you and Jacob and Paul and Leo and the entire team. The summit was fantastic, and I'll make sure I annotate how positive I feel on the survey, but make sure y'all got a little bit of kudos as well. It was a great job, very well organized. I thought it was a great time. A lot of good came out. We added some extra members to our LTPT in Marion County that actually we had our monthly meeting yesterday that they attended. And so I just, again, want to say thanks. It's a great event. I look forward to having it next year as well.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that.
Oh, congratulations, Jacob, as well. Congratulations. Can't leave that one out. So
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Hey, Derek, one of our grant managers just got back to me and said that for broadband infrastructure, Comcast, we have executed all 4 agreements through Capital Projects Broadband Infrastructure. I don't believe that they have submitted any reimbursement requests just yet, but those contracts are executed. So they should be starting their build out soon. And I think that there's some
on the mic. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, sir. And I think that y'all have some BOP that have not been executed, is what he said. Expecting first round of invoices within the next 2 months. So BIP is out the door. That should be, like I said, we should be getting invoice for that shortly. Still working through the BOP execution, but the 4 BIP agreements are executed.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Sam, I just saw your question in the chat. So these meetings are recorded and they are posted on the Florida Commerce YouTube page. It usually takes either by the end of the day today or tomorrow morning for them to get posted. But that's when, you should expect them to be on the YouTube page. It's really simple. All you got to put into Google is just type in Florida Commerce YouTube and the monthly LTPC meeting should show up on there. Okay, you're welcome. So does anyone have any more updates or questions before we end the meeting? Okay. Well, thank y'all so much for joining us. Our next meeting will be November 21st. In the meantime, if y'all have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll see y'all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you all.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.